30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and young guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Tuesday in Nashville, Tennessee. As you can tell from the backdrop, we at our new digs at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. It's summer. It's great weather. It's football season just around the corner. And ladies and gentlemen, representing the Texas Longhorns, would all of you welcome Kelly Holcomb.
I was looking at this shirt and I said, this is a little bit Texas-like, right? 5 minutes before the show. You're absolutely right, George. Way to go.
So
that's nice. Who are you representing?
Probably North Texas. Yeah.
North Texas?
Yeah, I'm not going to win that battle.
The Mean Green.
Yeah, so to speak. So
hey, Mean Joe Green, big dog. Mean Joe Green.
You're right. I mean, you got to find the positives in everything. I have done a game at North Texas years ago in their old stadium, which I would describe as a dump.
It was a dump. Their new stadium, not so much, but their old stadium was a dump.
Ooh. The old one looked like a place where they had one. How am I trying to say this? A lot of cows, a lot of manure, a lot of.
It was not good. I'm going to tell you, it was not good.
I would describe the press box as high school,
uninviting.
It was a little bit of FAU, FIU type until FAU and FIU got new stadiums. But North Texas was really nasty. But the new stadium is nice. They spent some money on it, so
they did spend. You've been there, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, it's nice.
Have you ever been to?
I have not. I've been to Austin. I've never been to the University of Texas. I played with one of my good friends that was a University of Texas guy, but I've never been to a game at Texas. I would love to go to the Red River rivalry. There's no question about that. That would be cool to go to.
A friend of mine did that recently. They split the stadium in half, a lot like the Georgia-Florida game. And down there, it's around the Texas State Fair. And so you get all the J.R. Ewing wannabes on both sides. You got the Texas oil people. You got the Oklahoma oil people. And they're all throwing out $100 bills and making it rain. It's just a real spectacle.
I'm sure it is. It seems like a real spectacle on the TV when you watch it. But I'm sure it's totally different when you're there in person.
So, Billy, how are you today?
I'm good, George.
That's wonderful.
But I don't think the Northwestern faithful is very good today.
No, but I will say this as we gloat, not gloat, because this is a sad story, but I think I got it right yesterday that he was not going to survive. Let me say this. We're going to spend a ton of time during the 3:00 hour on some issues that maybe you haven't thought about around this that I have. I've compiled a little list of off the beaten path issues from this issue that I think are going to show up.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to this.
There's
it's
a ton.
Still being discovered as well. Last night, I mean, I don't know the exact time, George. I think it was like 6:30, 7 o'clock. It was announced that Pat Fitzgerald was fired amid allegations of widespread hazing within the football program. Michael Schill said the head coach is ultimately responsible for the culture of his team. The hazing we investigated was widespread and clearly not a secret within the program, providing Coach Fitzgerald with the opportunity to learn what was happening. Either way, the culture in Northwestern football, while incredible in some ways, was broken in others.
Kelly, you heard me yesterday talk about this. I think Derek Gregg, the athletic director, is in trouble. First of all, the players are royally pissed at him for not being a part of that meeting that took place, I guess, around 6:30 last night. Fitzgerald, his wife, and his kids addressed the football team. No AD. He's out of town. Now, that may not be his fault, but I'll say this. I would get my butt back to town just as quick as possible if I found out that the president was the one having to lead the investigation, because what ended up happening, what is starting to get out, is whoever the anonymous whistleblower is, and let me say this, I think by the end of the week, we'll know who this person is. Anonymous doesn't stay anonymous for very long, but the president on Sunday found out who the whistleblower was, got him on the phone, then got the mom and dad on the phone, and then made the decision that he was going to have to make a change.
Yeah, you were right yesterday. We both said it. I didn't think it would be that quick, but the slap on the wrist was not going to happen. I do know that just listening to stuff this morning or reading about stuff that the players are upset. The players that are there, they're upset. They really like Pat Fitzgerald. I didn't realize, George, that he'd been there for 4 years as a player, 5 years as an assistant coach. Has he been there for 17 as a head coach?
Yeah, it's in fact,
26
we
years.
we will put up during the 3:00 hour a Pat Fitzgerald file that just shows a lot of the accomplishments. Listen, the players can be pissed off all they want. They've caused a lot of this. And to sit here and act like they didn't know that some of the stuff that's gotten reported, look, this isn't about Kelly getting up and singing MTSU's fight song. This is not about George getting up and doing a tomahawk chop. There's some stuff that went on here. These kids knew that this was wrong.
I said it yesterday, George, and we'll talk about it in length, I'm sure, but everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knows what's happening. Even if you're not part of it, they even said in one of the things that I read, if you weren't part of it, they were at least watching. They knew what was going on. And I don't know. They just, if the things happen that they said happened in that article, it's way too far. And you hear of things like that. Every college has some hazing going on.
Frozen Kelly.
To what extent? Am I frozen?
We got you back.
Okay.
Not frozen like Ted Williams, but, sort of like temporarily frozen. Let me say this. We have tried really hard to get one of the student newspaper writers. There are about 4 of them that were involved in this shocking story. My gut feeling is they have been hit up by 200 million different outlets. If and when we're ever able to get one of these people on, certainly we'll let you know it. And we're trying hard on that.
Well, I'm sure that the bigger publications in that area are kind of pissed that the students were the ones that got that first. So I'm sure it's going to be a bigger story than it is right now in the next day or two.
That is one of the things that we're going to talk about.
National writers are scrambling right now.
Yeah, first of all, the Chicago papers, I'm sure, are pissed off. Not only that a student newspaper got it all, but that none of their people got it. Oh, I'll guarantee you there have been some meetings that have gone on that would peel the paint. But anyway, on to item number 2. Numero, as they say in Miami, the PA announcer, dos!
Elsewhere in college football, I missed this yesterday, George. SEC Media Days next week, as we know. Vanderbilt will go Tuesday at 9 a.m. So the early slot. I think they were in the early slot last year. Linebacker Ethan Barr, safety Jalen Mahoney, and wide receiver Will Shepard will join Coach Lee. And then for Tennessee on Thursday, they're the last team to go on Thursday. Quarterback Joe Milton, defensive lineman Amari Thomas, and tight end Jacob Warren. So wanted to get those out there. Missed it yesterday. A little tease for SEC Media Days next week. Last night, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wins the Home Run Derby. First Home Run Derby title. He beat Rays outfielder Randy Arozarena in the finals. He set a record with 91 homers back in 2019 in Cleveland, but he lost to Pete Alonso. This time around, he got past Mookie Betts in the first round, Julio Rodriguez in the second round, and then Arozarena in the finals. George, he had some moonshots.
He had some moonshots. Let me say this, though, about Alonso, and this sounds like a bitter pill on my end. If this were home plate, and it's not, okay, and this is the inside corner and this is the outside corner, the guy that threw to Pete Alonso never saw this part. It was all out here. Pete Alonso never had a chance, which made me
he
look
had
bad.
no shot.
No.
He had no shot in that. I
bitter.
felt sorry for the dude throwing to him because Pete Alonso, you could see on his face like there's nothing he could do. And I think somebody else was scheduled to throw for him, but I think something happened, and then they had to bring the other coach, and yeah, it was not good.
The guy who ought to be throwing for all of them is Kevin Stallings. Kevin throws batting practice in the offseason to his son Jacob and also to Adam Duvall with the Boston Red Sox, formerly of the Braves. Who knows? Trade deadline may be back in Atlanta. But Adam told me one time that Kevin Stallings was as good as at least half of the batting practice pitchers that are out there for various teams. And so I'm nominating Kevin next year to be the thrower for all of them.
But that's not a fun job. I mean, that's one of the more pressure-packed jobs in all of sports, the pitcher for those hitters.
If it's me, though, I want the dude that's throwing to Julio Rodriguez.
Oh,
like
my
he
God.
put it on the spot every time.
Yeah.
And that's why that cat had 41 home runs in the first round.
Let's put the chart back up. Here's home plate. This is the inside corner. Oh, Julio got a lot of inside corner.
That's where he wanted it.
And this is what he did with it.
No.
Boom.
He was smacking him in the first round. Then the second round, he kind of lost his. I don't know what happened. I guess I don't know if he got tired or what. Yeah, he probably was.
Rodriguez pitcher was rolling. I mean, it was like every. I don't see how that. As a batter,
I don't even think it up on this. Laid it up there on the inside corner and said they're all going to be right here.
Eduardo Perez was talking. I don't even think he stepped with his throws. I just think he was just tossing
he just stood there,
tossing it. Yeah.
All-Star game tonight, 7:00 on Fox.
Yes.
Zach Gallen versus Garrett Cole.
Two really good pitchers. Garrett Cole, the more likely that you would have picked out for this assignment. My gut feeling is Clayton Kershaw would have gotten the National League if he was healthy. He's not. Zach Gallen will do great.
And he's been phenomenal this year.
He better do great.
He better do good tonight.
The last time the National League won this game,
long time.
Millard Fillmore was our president. Let's just say it's been a while.
It's
and I, for one, am sick of it. Come on.
George is a big National League guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Not rooting for the Yankees. Hell no.
NBA expansion is potentially on the horizon, George. According to Commissioner Adam Silver, Las Vegas and Seattle will be among markets explored and if the league decides to expand after its next media rights deal. What are your thoughts on those two cities, Vegas and Seattle?
First of all, Seattle should be automatic.
Yeah.
That city deserves to have their Supersonics back, period. Now, Oklahoma City has turned out to be a really good market for the NBA. But Seattle, he should just have walked in and said, look, if we expand and when we expand, Seattle's getting one. That's my opinion.
Nashville's not in the talk for a NBA franchise.
No, and here's the deal, because the arena in the deal that was put together to begin with, the Predators basically and I think this was a smart move by Mayor Bredesen back then. He made the decision that whoever came in here first would get basically control of the arena. And so what would happen is an NBA team if that were to happen, would probably get the secondary dates. The Predators, virtually any time they have the opportunity, are home on a Saturday. Saturday being your number one drawing deal. If you had an NBA team here, they'd have to work around that to kind of a Friday or a Sunday or however they would do it.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, it isn't. And the last place you want to play is on Monday.
Exactly.
Not a good drawing day.
That's all I got, George.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. We have a heck of a show for you. Tony Basilio, Knoxville sports talk show host extraordinaire, will join us after the break. Then during the 3 o'clock hour, we will get knee-deep into this Northwestern mess because it's getting messier, and I don't think Pat Fitzgerald's head is the last one that's going to roll. We'll talk about all of that and more. You need to stick around. This is the George Plaster Show from the beautiful Fordyce Center in Bellevue.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over. We're back. Our sports speaker series this Sunday will have some University of Tennessee flavor to it with Coach Philip Fulmer, former offensive coordinator David Cutcliffe, who later starred at Duke and before that at Ole Miss, Watson Brown, Tony's father. Did you like that?
I don't think Watson likes it, actually.
You know what? He's just going to have to deal with it. And then the guy who I think is, I would call the foremost authority in Southern college football, Tony Barnhart. If you want to come, we got about 160 of you who have signed up already. It's simple. Just email me at plastergeorge@gmail.com. Again, plastergeorge@gmail.com. Here's a thought. Here's just a thought. If we can ever get him to town, Tony Basilio could be sports speaker series material.
I'd want to be off that day so I can enjoy it.
Would you?
Yeah.
Let's bring him up.
I'm busy. I'm busy that day. How you guys doing?
So will you be coming to Nashville when Tennessee and Virginia play?
Maybe. Actually, I do my show that night from here, so probably not.
Oh,
I saw where it's 11 a.m. local start, which is really good for the local economy, George.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
it'll
That's
also
absurd.
be a tad bit warm.
Yeah.
That you notice they slipped that one in real quiet.
Mhm.
Not a lot of fanfare.
You said it, I didn't. 11
no.
a.m. local start, and they're paying both those schools pretty good money to be there. And I think they do a lot of good stuff, obviously, in your community. Made it very vibrant, but probably not going to make a lot of money on that one, I would think.
TV dictates starting time.
Yeah.
And this is one that when we get closer to kickoff will not be a very popular start time. Now,
No.
what they would hope for is a little cloud cover, maybe a freshening shower around 10 in the morning, cool things off. Anyway, thank you for being with us. How are you?
Thank you. I missed you last week, man. So doing great.
That's right. It's been 2 weeks. So we've held a baseball draft. And Tony, I feel terrible for Chase Dolander. The absolute worst place to end up is in Colorado. I just don't think pitchers can make it work out there.
No. And his heart had to sink. I mean, obviously, he's going to say all the right things, and you get a chance to play in Major League Baseball and playing an organization. His hope has to be that they flip him for somebody. Because you do not want to pitch in that ballpark. I mean, there's a reason why the Rockies, since they've been there, can attract certain players, but they're not going to attract starting pitchers, George. It's not the way it is. You know that.
No, in the past, their philosophy was to totally overpay.
Yeah.
Mike Hampton,
yes,
the late Darryl Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what you think. Take Colorado out of the picture for a moment. Dolander is a real talent. What do people up there say about his potential as a major league pitcher?
Tony loves him, and Tony's had guys who have come from his tree that have made it, and they think he has what it takes. And I think they were pretty surprised this year that he struggled at times, but boy, he was dominant at times. And when he got his breaking ball working this year and then commanded his fastball, he was as good as it got in the sport. And that's the guy he was supposed to be coming into the year. The thought was that he was going to be, they were calling him 1-1, before the beginning of the year. And then he just didn't have a very good season this year by his standards.
By the way, what are you hearing on Chase Burns?
George, that's interesting. I hear that Chase Burns is borderline burned out with the concept right now of playing college baseball. It's why you haven't heard his name linked to any teams. He has a team that helps him there and has from the time that he displayed the prodigious talent that he has. And they've encouraged him that you've got to play college baseball next year. And I think right now he's a little tired of college baseball. So I think he's in limbo. There were thoughts inside of the baseball world that he was going to matriculate back to Tennessee. I mean, could that happen? I don't know. Like I told you, I never say never, but that one's about 99% and has been. But it's weird for a guy of his talent to not be linked to anybody. And he's not linked to anybody for that reason.
What do you think the burnout is about?
I just think he wants to play professional baseball. I think he's had 2 years of this. I think from his perspective, it's, I want to start. I never wanted to be in the bullpen. When they put me in the bullpen, did my absolute best, the absolute very best that I could. And he did. But at the same time, I think he looked at Tony at the end of it and said, hey, you know what? I got to move on because I don't know if I can trust you guys to let me start next year and leave me alone. And from his perspective, if that's how you feel, then by all means move on. But I just think he's tired of the concept of college baseball. And he's a great talent, George. He really is a great talent. So it's hard for Tennessee to watch him walk out the door. But Tennessee's haul in the transfer portal, ever since that happened to this coaching staff, they've literally gone out and recruited like their hair's on fire. I asked Tony in the midst of like a 5-player and 5-day haul, boom, 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 boom. And they're still chasing the starting pitcher from Alabama. That's probably the last piece for him. He'll be in this weekend. Holman, he's a Friday pitcher for Alabama. Great player. That's probably the last piece for them. But I asked Tony, I said, when do you plan on sleeping? He said, man, when this is over, we'll have enough time to get some rest. He said, when are you going to sleep? I said, tonight.
He's got a point.
Tonight. I'm going to sleep tonight.
By the way, since you brought up Alabama, and go ahead and bring Kelly into this as well. I don't know who has seen Pat Forty's story in Sports Illustrated. I read it last night and my jaw dropped. The story involves the Alabama baseball coach
Unreal.
who got fired, and the level of stupidity that went on that Forty reports, not only about the baseball coach at Alabama, but the guy that tried to bet the $100,000 up in Ohio. Tony, it is borderline just moronic stupid.
Well, I have a belief. I've had friends, that have had addiction issues. And I think there are times where guys that have those issues want to get caught. And, I looked at Forty's story, and the reporting in that's incredible. I mean, that's just, you could not write that script. Guy betting against his own team and the lengths to which he went, and the, like you were saying, George, just the callous stupidity and the way they went about it. My belief is at some point he just wanted to be caught. Obviously wanted to be caught, right? I mean, think about that. Why else would you do what they did?
He was getting, the coach at Alabama was getting basically $500,000 a year as their head coach. This guy who placed the bet, and Tony, if you remember where it was, help me.
It was in Cincinnati's ballpark.
That's what.
Great
Okay,
American
that's
ballpark,
right. Great American
in a casino at the ballpark.
So, I've never been in there. I was just at Great American 2 weeks ago to see the Braves and the Reds. By the way, another homer just left about 5 seconds ago.
Incredible.
Probably off Joey Votto's bat. But, I mean, to think that you're going to go to a ballpark, to one of these kiosk kind of things, and try to unload a 6-figure bet on a college baseball game, which is what Forty is reporting in this story, my jaw dropped.
Especially when the limits on most of those baseball games, if Brad Bohannon and his accomplice would have thought that through. In gambling, they have a word they say, the handle, which is how much money's bet on any particular sporting event. On any given night, when Alabama's playing SEC baseball, how much money could change hands on an Alabama baseball game? You're going to walk up there and bet $100,000? You could walk up there and bet $100,000 on an Alabama football game, and they would flag you.
Sure.
If you bet $100,000 on an Alabama baseball game, you're going to get your picture taken from every angle, and they're going to see everything that's on your phone, which is exactly what happened. I mean, they're stupid, and I relate to stupid. I've been called stupid before, and probably resemble that remark. But I think that at the end of the day, Bohannon wanted to be caught. I think the real story is going to come out that he's enmeshed in some kind of gambling addiction, which put him in that spot where he's betting against his own team on a Friday night.
Kelly, one of the things they pointed out in Pat Forty did an unbelievable job, was that the text exchange between the guy who placed the bet and Bohannon, their security cameras caught it all.
Clearly visible.
Yeah. I was like, dadgum.
It makes you really appreciate, guys, what's on your phone and how we all better be careful, Kelly.
They got you, man. They got us with the phones. Anything that you put on that phone, they got, man. It's you got to watch what you put on that stuff. It's amazing how they're watching us, and for somebody to do something like that, that's egregious. That's crazy.
Be the perfect time to play the song. I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
No doubt about that. And you know, the NFL, and they did it quietly, but they quietly suspended a dozen or so guys here recently for gambling.
One of them's a Titan.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you've got this small window in your life where you're getting the privilege to do something and getting paid handsomely for it. What are we doing? And for a college baseball coach to work all your life to get yourself in that spot. I was talking with a friend of mine today friend of his son had played for this guy at Kentucky, and he said it was the last guy in the world, that he ever thought would be involved in something like that.
Kelly, I know I butted in. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, you didn't really butt in. I'm just going to make a comment. Like, I've said this on this podcast here, Tony, that gambling in the National Football League, and now they're finding out it's happening in college too. But like, it's always been happening. I can remember being on an airplane, and I've said this before. I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say this, but I've been on an airplane before where it was $100 just to get in the game, and it was stacked up on the on those little trays that sit in front of you on planes. It carries over into the hotel when you go there. So like, I don't know how you police it. You know, the NFL has suspended some guys, but man, it's an ongoing problem, and I think it's only going to get worse. It's only going to you're going to hear more about it, not only in the NFL and in all these other sports, but in college sports as well.
You know, my thoughts on college has always been the key guy to get to if you're in the gambling community are those trainers who know injury situations, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Or some kid that's a walk-on, not making any money. Hey, can you keep your eyes open for me? How's Milton's leg this week? Here's $1,000 for telling me, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that goes on. I know that goes on. I've said on the air, people think I'm being the sky is falling. Hey, look, when you ascribe the ability to make a quick buck to something, people are going to make a quick buck. And the people that need to have that information, Kelly, are going to get that information out of those locker rooms. If they have to dig it out, you and I both know they're going to dig that, whether it's an NFL locker room. And see, college sports set themselves up for this because they do not release accurate injury reports. And as long as you leave it open to that, see, that's why they need a commissioner. The NFL would never play that game. The NFL, if you lie on an injury report, they'll take a draft pick from you.
Yes.
College,
absolutely.
All these guys are playing games. And so if you play games, the most powerful people in that locker room are the people with the knowledge. It's powerful.
Well, I can remember going into, and I just got signed with a team, and I walked into the locker room. Not going to talk about any of the teams that I played for, but I walked into the locker room, and the media is in there during lunchtime, and guys are down on the ground shooting craps. I mean, that was happening during lunchtime. I mean, and you got the media in there, and they're sitting there watching it.
That's
but
awesome.
now we're making a big to-do about gambling when you're taking money from all these gambling organizations, and now you're trying to put a lid on it and stop it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of far out there for me right now.
Well, it's kind of like the Northwestern thing with hazing. You know, like, do I think that's good, what was going on there? Obviously not.
No.
Has that been a part of sports for as long as athletes have participated?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Have you seen things and seen coaches say things to people or support people that you would never repeat see people treated in a way that you would never, ever, like if you and I were sitting around and we could tell stories and people would say, well, did that really go on? And the answer is it goes on all the time. Now, does it make it right? Doesn't make it right. Here's the deal with Pat Fitzgerald. If Pat Fitzgerald would have been 10-2 last year, you know where this would be right now, this story? Nowhere.
No, it would be
nowhere. Nowhere.
That's exactly right. I told George yesterday, and we'll get into it in the 3:00 hour, but I told George yesterday, if people sit here and watch this show and they think hazing does not go on, they're fooling themselves.
Right.
Because it happened. I remember when I was in college, it happened to me. I had to sing. But like, I remember I started as a true freshman and they didn't bother me that fall because they needed me. But there in spring practice, I can remember telling my roommate, I'm like, something's going down tonight. So you get the knock on the door. And I said, if you open that door, dude, we're going to fight right now because they're going to get us tonight. And they penny locked us in the door so we couldn't get out of the door the next morning, but we finally did. But if people think that does not go on, I mean, they're fooling themselves. It happens at every program.
It happens everywhere, and for some reason in all walks of life. And I was asking today on my show just about hazing and whether or not it still goes on these campuses. And some people reminded me that, you know, we've had some deaths across the country in fraternities and, you know, what have you, which has led to some fraternities getting shut down. But, you know, it's just a part of human nature. And it's a part of sports. And it's kind of like this whole gambling thing. This gambling deal, it's only going to get bigger. When the Titans build their new stadium, they'll have a gambling window down there eventually. Neyland Stadium will have a gambling window down there in their new stadium. And for Billy Derrick, you know, Vanderbilt will have a new stadium too, so he can take Vanderbilt's opponents and the points when he goes down to see Vandy.
Not for long. Not for long. Tony.
Is that where all the renovations are coming? That I saw that the Board of Trustees are they going to put in a betting booth at Neyland Stadium? Is that where that's coming from?
Hey guys, listen. I'd say
it's happening.
Within 10 years, you will see gambling windows in college stadiums because these guys and gals that are in those sports cannot get enough revenue, George. These people are addicted to money.
It'll be like Churchill Downs. They'll delay the start of the race, you know, so we can get the full handle. Well, there was a little shower. Yeah. There was lightning reported in Memphis. So we're. Oh, man.
Good stuff.
So, Kelly, are you finished?
I was just going to ask more questions, but I thought you chimed in, so I'm good.
Well,
I was just going to ask anything going on.
When he talked about Billy's stuff,
Billy loves stuff.
You. I love Billy.
He does. There's no question.
I think Billy's a rising star. I love Billy.
Are you going to hire Billy, Tony?
I think Billy's a rising star. I don't know if Billy can take the pay cut to become a part of my organization.
Really?
Perhaps he's independently wealthy. Maybe we could work something out.
He must have been. He must have been to get in this business.
Exactly.
I was just going to ask, what's going on football-wise? We got media days coming up next week. Is anything going on football-wise? I'm looking at some stuff and seeing they're renovating Neyland Stadium or got the go-ahead to renovate Neyland Stadium. Is there anything going on football-wise up there? I know Josh Heupel's he's on the ballot of the Hall of Fame, College Hall of Fame. So what's happening in Knoxville?
Damn, you're coming hard. I'll tell you this. I think it's going to be a really interesting season. And, you know, the thing about Tennessee this year is how do you not disappoint your fan base after last year? Because I think a lot of Tennessee fans sort of feel like that's the norm. We counted it. Well, my partner, Bino Jeff Henderson, yesterday, going back to 1936, he counted from 36 on. Tennessee's had 14 double-digit win seasons in that amount of time. 80 whatever odd years that is, 84 years, I think it is. And they've had 14 of them. And last year was one of them. Last year was one of them out of nowhere. Generally, Tennessee is going to go 9-3 every year under a 12-game schedule. 9-3 is generally the number. We were talking today, you know, the Vegas number for the Vols is anywhere between 9 and 9.5, depending on where you look. if Tennessee goes out this year and goes 9-3, to me, you're coach of the year material. You lose those guys in the NFL, you lose that quarterback who ran your offense better than anybody you'll ever see in your life. You plug in a guy who has been, who was kind of left for being broken down a couple years ago, who you've rehabilitated, coached back up. You get 9 wins this year against the Southeastern Conference schedule. That would be, in my book, that would be pretty impressive. This fan base ain't gonna like 9-3, but I guess fans short for fanatic. I think it's gonna be a real interesting year, guys. I really do. I'm not sold on the concept that Alabama's going to win games just because Nick Saban's their head coach. I had Phil Steele on me yesterday, and Phil goes through all these models, and I like Phil. I love Phil, in fact. But he goes through all these models, and he's got this one, this is my, and these the number of returning players, and this, that, and the other, and then we got to Alabama, and he loves Alabama, and I said, Phil, why do you like Alabama so much? And he said, Nick Saban, which leads me to say this: Nick Saban can't play. Like, he's not going to walk down the field. Who's your quarterback? It's 2023. If you don't know who your quarterback is, man, you got issues.
I'm with you. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be either. I'm not sure. And there's a reason why the kid from Notre Dame transferred there.
That's right.
Obviously, he wasn't happy. Obviously, he wasn't happy with the Simpson kid or the Melrose kid that that played in the spring. So he's brought that kid in there for a reason.
And if they don't know, and you're playing a guy like Heupel, who and I'm not, I know George is having fun, but in today's game, it's the first to 40 in this league now for most of these games. It is. It's crazy what they've done to college football. If you can't score 5 touchdowns, you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Good, George.
Okay. So before we let you go, if a person just rolled into town and they caught our show for some reason and now they hear you and they're like, this guy is fun, he's interesting, how do they listen to you?
Well, to that, I would say first impressions can be misleading. Yeah. But my website is tclub.team, and we try to do it each and every day there. I put a blog up, like 1,000, 1,200 words today. We try to every day. Fresh new content. And then I do my show, and then we do post-game stuff after games, and that's why I look as haggard as I do right now. It's July. I should be looking rested, but I look worn out. So there.
Tony, fill in the blank. You ready? Because I had an interesting answer. The last time the National League won the All-Star game was blank.
Boy, pre the smartphone.
I said it was the Millard Fillmore administration.
That's pretty good. I saw today we're the National League's favorite. Speaking of gambling.
How could they be? I saw that.
In the world.
How in the hell could that be?
You think Brad Bohannon's betting on the All-Star game?
Let's go live to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. That's Tony, smart. Thank you. You're a mess.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
He is so good. He is so much fun to listen to. Tony Basilio joining us for his weekly visit. After the break, maybe a couple of thoughts about the All-Star game. The Millard Fillmore administration. Stay tuned. Oh, I have to tell you, this was a major screw up.
Administration mistake.
I don't know how we can blame this on Billy, but I'll figure it out by the end of the commercial. Music City Grand Prix is about 3 weeks away. I'm excited about it. I've never been to a Grand Prix, and a lot of you 2 or 3 years ago were in the same position, and you've been, and you have spoken loudly that it is one cool event. They do a great job with music. For 3 days, not only will you have great racing, but you will have great music. That's a given. The tickets have been on sale now for a couple of months. You can go as low as general admission all the way up to some high-level amenities. And now, as of a couple of weeks ago, single-day tickets are on sale as well. You say where? I say musiccitygp.com. musiccitygp.com. That's musiccitygp.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
I am here to promise you that at 3 o'clock, just after stat of the day is over, we are going to get knee deep into this whole Pat Fitzgerald thing at Northwestern. I thought yesterday some of the conversation we had is some of the best stuff that Kelly and I have ever done. That ain't saying much, but you know. Thought I'd throw that out there.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And
Thanks for grouping me in with you.
And we will do it again today at 3 o'clock. And it is, trust me when I tell you, it's going to be must listen to stuff that you haven't probably heard yet. We have a tad bit of late breaking news. Billy, what do you got over there?
Saints running back Alvin Kamara has agreed to plead no contest to lesser charge, to a misdemeanor charge of breach of peace for his involvement in a 2022 fight in Las Vegas. So there's the latest news around the Saints. Kamara and 3 other men were initially facing misdemeanor charges of conspiracy to commit battery and a felony charge of battery with substantial bodily harm. Kamara is no longer facing felony charges after accepting the plea deal, his attorney confirmed today.
He will do community service and pay about $100,000 for medical bills. Here's a quote. Alvin is pleased that this matter is behind him. Better believe he is. He's dadgum lucky not to be behind bars in that deal.
This took a while, too.
It took over a year.
Yeah.
Well, was it over a year?
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. Okay. So did you watch the home run hitting last night?
I did.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And Kelly,
Absolutely.
you did as well. It's a great concept. You know, it sold that place out. It was packed. I've never seen Safeco that full when the Mariners play.
T-Mobile now.
T-Mobile, whatever. Exxon.
I do miss the old names.
You know, whatever. But here's what I wonder. This is not a big criticism. Is it possible the second and the third rounds would be better if you gave these participants a tad bit more time between rounds? They look exhausted when it's over.
So. I think that's a good. I think that's a good place where you start. Those guys are exhausted, but with that being said, they gave it a 2-hour time slot, and it went like to 2.5 hours. So you're going to have to make provisions in, watching it and how long you're going to have it on there. But I think those guys need some more time too. And then the thing about it was Vlad Guerrero, he got finished, and then he was the first guy up. I mean, that didn't make sense to me either.
Unfair.
Yeah, it seemed unfair to me, and then he goes on and wins the thing. But I thought for certain that he would not be the first guy to go. I thought the guy that would be resting would be the guy to go, but they made Vlad go right back out and do it again. But I think you're absolutely right, George. I think that if they gave those guys a little bit more time, I think you would get more home runs. Although, I mean, the way they were cranking it out last night, I mean, he hit 25 in the last round, which is, I think that was a record.
Well,
it's one of the harder parks to get a ball out of.
It is
T-Mobile, Safeco, Exxon.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really an advantage to being hitting left or right. But I thought they talked about it last night. It's not really a benefit. I mean, if you have to hit first, you don't have to worry about chasing somebody, if they put 30 on the board. But, if you hit second and the first guy only hit, 10 or 15, you can take some breaks in between swings. You can look at a few more pitches. So it's just all about what that first guy does, and the second guy can read and react to that. So it's kind of a weird deal. You never really know who's going to come out.
Here's something that has helped it. As much as I love Chris Berman in football, he drove people absolutely insane with this call.
You didn't like that?
Back. How many times can you go back?
That's the best. That was the best part of the home run derby.
Please, come on,
George.
Enough.
That's tradition right there.
Yeah, whatever.
That is tradition. I was wondering where Chris was last night. I mean, I want to hear some back, gone. I mean, I want to hear all that.
I will say.
You want to hear it 40 times?
Absolutely. I mean, it brings something to it. Absolutely.
It's not like he didn't do it every time, but if he
he just about did.
If he sees a moonshot, I mean, the back's coming. Dude, I loved it.
I did too, George. I mean, grow up.
Go work with Tony.
Lighten up, George.
I mean, relax, dude. Take something.
No, you just back off there, Mac Brown.
Who doesn't like Chris Berman? That's like being a communist, dude.
That's not what I said. See, you have tried.
I know, but you don't. You don't like him doing that. You don't like him doing that. I don't understand that. He was good at it.
I loved him in the pro football stuff. Man, he was awesome.
The post-game show.
The baseball, no.
After what you can do.
The first 40 backs, you get tired of it.
Oh, no, so where are you in this? Are you now Switzerland going back and forth depending on
I don't see how you were ripping it. I missed that.
Go work with Tony.
All right.
He said,
"No, don't, Billy. Hey, Billy, no, please don't.
Yeah,
don't go work with Tony."
That would mean I'd have to live in Knoxville, right?
Wow. Okay, well. Any of you watching in Knoxville, Billy Derrick, let me give you his address, P.O. Box. So
his phone number.
Let's do that. Area code 615. After the break, we'll get stat of the day that we're likely to bomb, and then we'll get knee
No,
deep.
this is college football.
Oh, yes.
What do you mean?
It's a college football question.
Oh, so you think we'll do better?
You should.
No, I don't. And then we will get knee deep into the Pat Fitzgerald stuff.
I mispronounced it earlier too.
Yeah, in a way that maybe you haven't thought about. But after you get finished listening, you're going to go, stay tuned. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And, of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
We've entered the 3 o'clock hour here on the George Plaster Show, live from the beautiful Fordyce Center out in Bellevue. Let's get to Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards out in Shelbyville. You can find them at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, college football season is 46 days away. Week 0, of course, 46 days away from week 0. Which team has the record for the longest winning streak in the history of college football?
Okay, Kelly, I think the answer is Oklahoma under Bud Wilkinson. But if you've got something else, let's hear it.
No, I think that's right, George. Yeah, I think that's right. Maybe Miami, but I think you're right.
Final answer?
Oklahoma. Bud Wilkinson.
What about you, George?
The last time that I got one of these right, Millard Fillmore was your president. And it's been a while.
Would you say that was an easier one, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. God, look at Bud Wilkinson. Look how young he looked.
You like that one,
Yeah,
Kelly?
that was I did like that one. Yeah, that was when George said that, that was absolutely right. I was thinking Miami, and then when he said that, I was like, yeah, it was Oklahoma.
You mentioned Miami, Kelly. They are actually tied for 6th on that list.
Really?
They won 34 straight in the early 2000s.
So who's second?
Is that the most recent long streak?
You got Toledo in the early 70s.
Let's go Mud
35. Yale.
There you go.
Yale had a big long streak, but that was in the late 1800s, and then Washington also in the early 1900s. But yeah, Miami is really the most recent. You also got Penn. It's crazy how many Ivy League teams had really good football teams back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, didn't Vanderbilt as well? I don't know what year.
You're talking about like in the 1920s?
Yeah.
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 So are we now?
Yes, George.
Thank you. Are we now prepared to?
Is this is a State of the Union? Well, not really.
This is
State of the Union, Northwestern.
Yeah. Tomorrow it would be Kelly's World of Football.
Exactly. We can't do back-to-back.
Like heck, we can't. Okay, I want you all to think through this particular thought. You brought it up earlier, Kelly. There are a group of Northwestern football players who are angry about what's happened.
Yeah.
If indeed absolutely nothing has gone on the way it's been reported, knowing me, if I were a Northwestern football player, and I realize this is a real stretch, but let's just say that George Plaster is a defensive back at Northwestern, and I know full well that anything resembling this has gone on, and my coach got fired, whether I had the university's permission or not, I would have emailed a bunch of those Chicago writers and said, my name is so-and-so. I'm a starting defensive back at Northwestern. I will be holding a press conference today at the Sheraton Elliston in wherever Northwestern, Evanston.
Yeah, it's up in Evanston.
And I will answer any and all questions. And by the time I am finished, all of you will know that nothing ever happened. So if they're not guilty of this stuff, why isn't anybody doing that? Think about it.
That's a really good question, George. It's hard to get out on that ledge by yourself. But what you're saying is, if none of this happened, then why is it so hard to do? It's always better to go as a group, you know that. And I don't know if I would have ever. I can remember a little bit of something happening like that with one of the teams that I played for, and if the guys had gone about it the right way, they had a case. They had a case, but didn't know how to go about it. I don't know, George. I don't know how to answer that question. That's a good question, because if you haven't done anything, you should be willing to go out and stand on that ledge by yourself and go say, hey, I'm sticking up for Pat Fitzgerald. But if you know that there's bones in the closet and they're buried outside, you're just not going to do that. And it's hard to come out and go against because the media and social media is so crazy nowadays, and you say something that can be taken out of context. I don't know. That's a really good question, George, and I'm not sure. I don't really know how to answer that. Maybe Billy's got a better answer than I do, but I just know that me being a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, that if something like this had gone on and happened, and I thought that stuff wasn't happening, I still don't know if I would have gone out by myself and called up WSMV out of Nashville or called up Fox out of Nashville and said, "Hey, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to protect my coach." As a young kid, I just don't know if I would have done that, George. Even though I know that he was right and none of this stuff went on, I just don't know. And the guys that are talking about this are underclassmen, so I just don't know as a guy I could have done that.
Well, what I'm trying to do right now is put myself in the shoes of a Northwestern player. Probably, an older player would have to do this. Would have to lead the charge with this.
You would hope. Yeah. Senior leaders.
Right, senior leader.
Co-captain, whatever.
So say you got a senior, right. He was on a really good Northwestern team his freshman or sophomore year, but the last 2 years have been brutal for Northwestern. They haven't done a lot of winning. And just the timing of a lot of it, they might not, that senior might not feel like he has the ground to stand on because of how bad the program has been. Now, if
screw that. Listen, this shouldn't have anything to do with wins and losses.
I'm saying if Northwestern was coming off a Big Ten title,
they probably would have washed it under and nobody would have found out anything.
Exactly.
But that should not be the issue here. All I'm saying is this. If my head coach got blown out last night and I knew full well that none of this ever happened, there is no question on my end that today I would be openly talking to as many media as I could to say, listen, I have no reason to lie. By the way, I'm on academic probation with an 0.8. that might get brought up. What kind of grades do you have? Not very good. But the point is, if my coach got blown away, and I know for a fact that none of this has happened, you're damn right I'd be talking.
Well, and they might be doing that right now. We don't know.
Well, hold on a second. You can go to all these different sites. Heck, even I know how to do it. Do you see one that's saying anybody's saying anything?
No, but I mean, they could be building something quietly and maybe waiting on, waiting on
what? Waiting on
something.
Santa Claus to arrive? I mean, now's the time. Your coach has gotten blown away.
What's the reward for that, though? If you
doing the right thing. If this truly has not happened,
that's
what's
the
been
caveat
reported
we're going off
has
of.
not happened. Your coach has gotten blown away wrongfully, and nobody's willing to stand up and say it. I'm just saying the fact that everybody's being kind of quiet tells me
says a lot.
It really does. Now, let's put Derek Gregg's picture up there for a minute. Derek Gregg is a former Vanderbilt receiver who played under Coach Watson Brown. I've checked with several people today who have told me if Gregg had known any of this, he never would have tolerated it. If you look through his background, a lot of it with the NCAA is inclusion. That's the theme of Derek Gregg. Now, that said, the players were pissed off last night that he was nowhere to be found, and it was reported on ESPN that he was on vacation. Well, I don't care if you had to ride on a camel as opposed to a 747. If you're out of town, out of the country, out of wherever, and your president is conducting an investigation that we all knew by Friday was happening, my butt would be back at Northwestern. This, in my opinion, is a major, Derek Gregg screw up. Kelly, I don't know any other way to say that.
I'm with you, George. There's sometimes in life where I understand he might not have had a vacation for forever, and he might be with his family and his kids, but this is kind of bigger than that, and that's kind of what your job description is. And it kind of seems like when you're allowing that to happen and you're allowing the president to run the investigation, I mean, are you hiding from that? That's I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Are you running away from that because you've heard rumblings of that and you didn't do anything, so you're out? I'm not trying to speculate. I'm just saying I'm with you. If he was gone and all this stuff is happening, you have got to get your tail back to Northwestern and you have got to find out what's going on. You got to start talking to people. You got to start talking to coaches. You got to start talking to some of the students, and you got to figure out what's going on, because that's just that makes it feel like, to me, that you kind of knew what was going on and you're hiding from the stuff that is coming down the pipe. That's kind of what it is to me. Now, that's total speculation on me. I don't know anything about that. I'm just saying, with something that's happened like this, that is such a media catcher, as this hazing scandal going on at Northwestern, and you're the head of the athletic department at Northwestern, you certainly need to be back in Evanston.
Now, let's take an issue that probably is more interesting to me than it might be to listeners. But the stuff that got Pat Fitzgerald fired came out of a student newspaper. And just down the road, within a stone's throw of the Northwestern campus, is a very active Chicago media.
Mm-hmm.
And this very active Chicago sports media, Chicago news media, whatever, got hammered by a student newspaper that had all the stuff. Now, my gut feeling is the student paper had this stuff and held it, probably not to make the president look really good, because the minute he came out with his 2-week slap, they came with this, gut-wrenching story, and boom, here's the explosion. My guess is that sports editors of papers like the Tribune and the Sun-Times have reamed out their sports people and said, how can you let a group of students kick your butt? Look for the Chicago papers in the next day or two to come with round 2 of this bombshell, because they are looking to make up for lost ground that a student newspaper killed them.
Well, and they're able to do that. Maybe they're thinking the other way, thanking the students in a way of saying, "Hey, thank you for throwing us the lob. We're gonna dunk it. We're gonna really smear Northwestern." Now I don't know if that's their intention, but I mean they got to discover the truth, one way or the other. So maybe it's, hey, let's really start digging on this now,
But George, it might not be their fault. Like if a student athlete, like he's probably not thinking about going to the Chicago Tribune or the Chicago Sun-Times. He's thinking about just getting it out there. He's sitting in the dorm room thinking, well, how can I get this out there? Well, maybe I'll go to the school newspaper. So I don't know if the big newspapers could do anything about that. I'm not sure. They're upset, and now they're digging. I mean, they're going to have something big, I'm sure, coming out, because they're going to start interviewing people. But I don't know, like if a young kid is sitting here, and we as men, I have this discussion with my wife and my 2 daughters all the time. Us men, we don't think about the most logical things all the time. So if you're a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that's sitting in his dorm room thinking, I'm just over this. I don't like what's happening to me. And how can I get this out there? Well, he's not thinking about going to a big city. He's just thinking about trying to move forward just a little bit. Well, how can I do that? And how can I get some attention? Well, the school newspaper. So that's probably how that worked.
Okay, I get that. And nothing you're saying here I disagree with. But what likely is happening is that the Chicago papers have somebody assigned, a beat writer, to the Northwestern beat. And my guess is that those poor people have gotten reamed out by their editors, basically saying, this bomb that went off, you were nowhere to be found. You knew nothing. How could that be? I'll guarantee you that conversation is going on at papers in and around the Chicago area. Now,
you're probably right, but also it's a slow time of year, George, that we've talked about, and a lot of colleges. My son just went back, so you never know the schedule of Northwestern. They might have been off. So this is a very slow time of year, especially when we're talking about college football and pro football. Football season has not started yet. It's about to kick up next week with the SEC Media Day. So this is a slow time of year. So maybe the beat writer, didn't go there for a couple of days, or maybe he didn't hear anything. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating myself.
Is it just me, or this time every year, right before football season, there's a huge story that comes out?
Well, sometimes it is. Texas OU 2 years ago with Brent Zwerneman.
I feel like right around media days, maybe a little before dead period, kind of the last bit of that dead period, you get a huge story. That's what it feels like. And with Northwestern, they bit the bullet this year. It's sort of what it feels like.
Here's another thought. Okay. And admittedly, what you're getting is some of my worst cynicism in this particular segment of the show. So far, even though I can't say Pat Fitzgerald, so far, I have not seen anything that says whether Northwestern intends to honor his contract, which has several years and a bunch of million bucks left on it, or are they attempting to fire him for cause? Okay, now, there was sort of a cryptic message left to ESPN last night after the All-Star hitting deal. Their live report indicated that Fitzgerald had told them that he had retained legal representation to have his rights fully honored. Okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what that means. Now, I'm going to play lawyer for a minute. Northwestern is likely to say, we're not paying you a damn dime. You have besmirched our school, moral clauses, all this kind of stuff. And then Fitzgerald and his attorneys are going to say, yep. And oh, by the way, the group that you hired to investigate this story, that you hired, not us, but you, is claiming that they believe Fitzgerald didn't know anything. This one is going to be really interesting in some legal whatever, because therein lies a piece of this, that the group that investigated this for Northwestern University found no tangible evidence that Pat Fitzgerald knew anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And George, he's got a 10-year contract that he just signed. He just finished his second year of $57 million. So there's a lot of money still out there, and you can better believe that if he didn't, he's going to get that. He's going after that. That's a lot of money. And normally when these college coaches get that, it's a guaranteed deal, whether you fire them or not. So there's a lot of money on the table. So it's going to be interesting to see here in the next week or so just how this thing goes.
My gut feeling now is that the president has saved his butt by coming out quickly after the student newspaper released that bombshell and said, well, on second thought, I screwed this up, and now I'm gonna move quick. The story that is out there is that whoever the anonymous whistleblower is, that the president by Sunday knew who that person was, picked up the phone, called the mom and dad first to get their side of it, then talked to the young man who is the anonymous whistleblower. And by the way, I think his name will be out there by the end of the week.
Boy, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So supposedly, once the president heard from the parents and heard from the anonymous whistleblower, that's when he made the decision.
Obviously, some mounting evidence right there by the parents, and if the parents were upset about it, if the kids was upset about it, it's one thing. But when you talk to the parents and they just probably talk about how he calls home upset about what's going on, and then you can kind of bring a story to all that, and Michael Schill obviously listened to that, and that slap on the wrist he knew was not going to get it done. And I think you're right. I think he probably saved himself by making a quick decision, but I don't think this is near over. Can't wait to hear what the AD says about it when he gets back into town. That's going to be something. Just love to hear what he thinks about the whole situation, because he's the guy that's over the athletic department. So hadn't heard from him yet. So it'll be interesting to see all this.
So I've got to think that, when the president makes the decision, the legal team is brought in there and they all say, look, you're in the clear. You're firing him for cause. We've got all this evidence, blah, blah, blah. Did anybody in that legal team ever say to the president, before you assume you're in the clear, know that the group that you hired to investigate this has come out publicly and said they can find no tangible evidence that Pat Fitzgerald knew what was going on? That's going to be interesting.
George, it's kind of a sticky situation. It really is. I just you hate to be devil's advocate about this, but I read an article. I said on the show yesterday, I read an article about the kid was very upset. And I'm sure we don't know both sides. We don't know who's telling the truth. We're trying to figure that out. We're trying to, walk our way through the weeds of all this stuff right now. But there's a lot of things that go on nowadays. And if the kid was really vindictive, trying to get back at the coach, we've seen it before of guys saying things that's not really credible. So I'm just waiting to see all the evidence and all of what comes out. Obviously, we're wanting to hear from Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach, about what actually went on, what he actually knew. Will he tell the truth about? I don't know. It's definitely a story that is very riveting. And if what happened with those kids and what they said in that article, if that stuff did happen, they took it way too far. And if the coach knew that, he needs to be gone.
Okay, so left, as I told you, Kelly, we were going to spend a lot of time on this. So, guys, with all of these conference media days coming, would it be accurate to say that this will now be a dominant topic at all of these meetings?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's how it goes.
They're going to get talked about it because every team, I'm telling you, every team has some sort of hazing. Now, whether it goes to that link, I certainly hope not. I didn't have that stuff. We had some hazing at middle, but it was nothing like that. And you just knew that you were going to have to go through that kind of stuff. And when you become an upperclassman and you had it done to you when you were a freshman, you can't wait to do that kind of stuff. But those guys, if those guys took it too far. The stuff like that is just way too far. When you're undressing guys and you're making them do things like that, it's way too far, and it makes me sick. It really
this
does.
Was not singing the
your favorite song or the alma mater, right?
George, we've heard you sing your favorite song, so why don't you get up and sing it for all of us? It went a little farther than that, and if you're not certain of that, get a copy of what the student newspaper put out there, because, man, it is graphic.
And
okay.
This is another round of questions for coaches at SEC Media Days that are all going to get asked about hazing.
You know they are. So. And my guess is that right now at most of these campuses, there is some practice answers going on.
Yes.
Where the SID type and the coach are rehearsing without saying this is a recording. It'll feel like this is a recording.
There's a lot of stuff going to be thrown at these coaches too, with all this gambling stuff. They're going to have to physically set those guys down and tell them, here are the rules. Here's what you can do. We don't need to do it. Don't get caught doing that. And then they're going to have to talk about the hazing stuff because it happens.
I don't know if they're having fun, George. These coaches.
Oh, I mean,
I know you've talked about that.
They got enough problems with NIL and transfer portal, and now they're going to get to these
gambling
league meetings, and they're going to get gambling. They're going to get hazing. They're going to get. And by the way, let me just take 3 guesses here. Kelly's World of Football tomorrow probably will get more into this and what it means for Northwestern football in 2023, because it's hard to sit here and say, man, they're headed to the Rose Bowl.
Yes. I just don't. I don't know. And he was the winning. He's the winningest head coach in Northwestern history. Like I said earlier. Yeah, the guy's been there for 27 years.
After all that work I did, you never put the file up there?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Kelly, the guy's been there for 26 years. Yeah, it's Kelly, Billy's fault. Everything that happens is Billy's fault.
Offense. I mean,
we got
absolutely
Here,
garnishment of his wages, and then
good
and it's
impeachable. After the break, I'll show it.
Whoa! Wait,
I've got to do some work to.
Hey, he's just telling you what's going on, George. You're going to have to sit down with him. You're going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Billy here.
Uh-oh.
We'll go to the break. We'll have some hazing during the commercial, and then we'll show you the Pat Fitzgerald file when we come back.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
We are back. We're actually going to go somewhere else here in this segment. But let me say that the big disconnect here is that if you asked the question last week, name the 10 most respected college football head coaches, Pat Fitzgerald's name would have been on a lot of these ballots. There's a real disconnect between what people have thought of him and what this story seems to have put out.
Well, and it's crazy. You know, I always thought of Pat Fitzgerald as longevity, great culture, you know, player development, you know, squeaky clean reputation. So that's why I'm still stunned that this has come out about his program. Obviously, it's a reality now. But I mean, Kelly, that's probably one of the last programs I would think of, to have been doing some of these things.
Well, I hate to bring this up, and it's kind of a black eye on the sport, but the same thing happened at Penn State. That's
Sure.
kind of a crazy deal what happened there. But Joe Paterno was this guy. They had a statue of him outside of the Nittany Lions Stadium, and then all this stuff started coming out about his defensive coordinator and the things that happened. And then what did he know? So that was kind of a black eye. Everybody's forgotten about it. That's human nature. Everybody forgets about stuff like that. But this kind of opens things like that, open those old wounds back up with things that you hear, because you're right, George. He was one of the more respected guys. You always respected him because, hey, he played there. As you see his file, he played there. He's an induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. He's got such a really good resume. He's the winningest coach in Northwestern history and one of the most well-respected guys in the game, because he went back to that team and he knew what he was getting himself into, just like Clark Lee coming back to Vanderbilt. He knows what he's getting himself into. He knew at Northwestern, and he's had a pretty successful career. But just like Tony talked about, what are they, 4-20 the last 2 seasons? So when you're doing that, things come up, and I pray that this stuff is not true, but it seems like that it really could be, George.
So in the next 24 hours, it'll be interesting to see the things that come out that we don't know at this moment. And it's very possible that in Kelly's world of football tomorrow, this is exactly what we get into, is some of the issues off the beaten path that maybe you haven't thought about. Now, we got an all-star.
And George, I'm sorry, but I got to say one more thing. I will say this, and I said it yesterday. I don't necessarily know that a head coach knows everything that's going on in this program, because I've talked to assistant coaches, and sometimes when a player did something that they thought the head coach did not need to know about and that he could take care of it.
Sure.
That was the case. Sometimes that happens. So I'm not here to say that he totally knew what was going on, because he might not have. I don't know that. I just think that when you're ahead of a program like that and things like that are going on, you hear little remarks and coaches talk, and they might try to keep it away from the head coach, but more than not, the head coach is going to know.
And real quick here, Northwestern is going to retain its assistant coaches and support staff this season. The school tells ESPN the coaches and staff were informed of their status in a meeting with AD Derek Gregg earlier today.
So he's
back.
back.
I have no choice. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, though. If you're blaming Fitzgerald and he ultimately walks the plank as the head coach because he didn't, this was going on, and he this and he that, and he, was all for it. Well, what about the assistant coaches? Are they not an extension of the head coach?
George, you can tell you've been in this profession for a long time, because you asked some really good questions, brother. If he knew, they had to know, and they would be more apt to knowing than the head coach.
Ooh.
I know this, that they're saying that their defensive coordinator is going to be the head coach. Well, he better be a big-shouldered guy, and he better set the first day that they start all this stuff. They start their training camp or whatever. He better
funny business
guys down, and he better tell those guys, hey, what went on here before is not happening anymore. And he better have some big shoulders, and he better hold to that standard.
Got to think about guys that might transfer now, 2024 recruiting class. There is a lot to this story.
Well, I mean, here's a very fair question. Okay, now let me say this. Am I right? The defensive coordinator is brand new to the staff. And so that's where they've been able to go clean sweep, in that he wasn't a part of any of this. Whatever did or didn't happen, he wasn't a part of it. But what about the rest of those assistant coaches? You don't think a player who is pissed off that Fitzgerald has walked the plank is going, I never liked my position coach anyway. Why is he okay?
That's right.
I mean,
well, if you start making moves, I mean, would they have a team? I mean, would they have a staff?
No, they would not. This is too far into the game. They would not have a staff. I mean, you could maybe go get retired guys
you could go get
if they still if they still wanted to coach some older guys. But like right now, it's long in the game to sit down and to rebuild a staff. You just can't do it.
We've decided to run the wishbone.
Get Watson Brown up there.
Well, hey, that's not an overnight success either, Ross. You gotta have about 1,000 reps at that trash before you can get it down.
The veer.
Oh, listen, there are so many questions that have been left in the wake of this story. You know what?
It's hard to even talk about because there's so much to it. You know, I mean, you feel like you're missing something when you.
I'll say this: if I were the editor of the paper in Chicago, this is the stuff I'd be hitting my beat writer with. Is how did some 18 to 21-year-old kids who aren't making a dime, they've got this whole thing, and you've got your you-know-what up your butt. What are you doing?
They're working overtime now. I bet you.
George would be like one of them little gnats that gather around you in the summertime when you're out watching the 4th of July fireworks, and they won't leave you alone. That's George right there. I can picture that.
We'll go to the break, and then we'll have Plaster Bet of the Day. The All-Star Game is upon us. The question, why is the National League, which has not won since Millard Fillmore, why are they the favorite? I think I'll have the answer when we come back.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. that global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Bear Difference at beardifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
MLB All-Star Game tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox. Joe Buck on the call, George, I would guess.
Joe Davis.
Joe Davis.
I think.
Who's really
good. Who is
good.
the voice of the Dodgers.
Very good, by the way.
Very good. Good young broadcaster.
I'd love to hear Frank Core at some point tonight. I think he's a guy that's gotten a lot better.
He'd be telling Larry, get Larry a crown.
That was great. Bet of the day, let's see what George got for tonight. It's brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Best in the business. Give him a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. We already reviewed last Friday night. Don't need to see that again. Let's see where you're going tonight, George.
Well, put up the record.
I mean, are we not scratching the record now? Like, who needs to see that anymore? We know you won, George. We know you've done well.
It's a self-esteem issue. Okay.
I mean, when do we scratch it? When are we done with the record?
You know what? Let's scratch it after go on Friday when Major League Baseball resumes. We'll start a clean
fresh slate.
So Tony Basilio brought it up earlier. National League has not won this since the Peloponnesian War. This has been a long drought. Ridiculous how long it's gone on. So why is the National League favored? And even more so, why am I taking the National League? Kelly, what is the best team in baseball?
Are you going to make me say that?
Yeah.
Do I have to say it?
Say it.
The Bravos. We know that.
Yeah.
And they've got their whole team. They've got their whole team in Seattle. We know that.
They got like 8 players on that roster.
And they've got pretty much the entire core of that World Series team with Freddie Freeman and Jorge Soler up there as well.
Peru.
They took a picture earlier today with Freeman and Soler in that picture.
Did they really?
Yeah.
I need that picture.
No.
So, am I taking the National League because of the Braves?
Is the sky blue?
You're damn right I am. That's the only thing I want to take the National League.
That's like asking, is the Pope Catholic?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the only reason I can come up with the National League is there are a bunch of Braves on there. They're all winners. They're all, yes. So we're going National League tonight. Tomorrow on the show, Terry McCormick to talk Titans and in particular to tell you a year from now how much under the salary cap they are. I had never heard this until earlier today. It's a big old number.
And they're going to be making a bunch of big old moves.
They need to.
An interesting kind of sleeper question. What was Peter Skoronsky's involvement? Or do we know his involvement, if any?
Wow.
Probably a lot of meat to that bone here in the next few months. I don't know what would happen. I mean,
the over-under of when that gets asked to him, July.
Under.
July.
Soon.
Very soon. Okay. So we'll get into the Titans tomorrow during the 2:00 hour. I promise you there's going to be more stuff break out of this Northwestern thing. We'll end up talking about it again at 3. We'll hide behind Kelly's World of Football to do it, it'll be a hell of a show. Kelly, great having you on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for grouping me in with you too as well. When you talked earlier about I don't know what it was. I forgot now.
It was
but
not
you grouped me in with
positive.
yourself.
Yeah,
No, it was not positive. But please don't ever group me in with you again. Let's just leave it at that.
Billy, enjoy your new job with Tony Basilio.
Appreciate it. Trying to find a place in Knoxville.
We're just kidding on that. Yeah. Do you need an agent? Real estate agent? Okay. We're out of here. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.